temporal things, I like to start out with something spiritual. And I've been thinking about the things that are happening on the East Coast with the hurricane and the port strike, and specifically the hurricane, and just watching some of the stories and the videos. I'm sure everyone has seen that. It's sad being here where things are almost kind of business as usual, at least for the time being. I had to stop it and really offer my prayers to Heavenly Father, saying, none of them were expecting it to be that bad. And so the thing that's come to my mind is we were reading 3 Nephi in Come Follow Me just last week. And the words of Jesus saying, this city and this city I have overcome with water. And they talk about specific cities that have just been washed away from water. And I see the parallels there. And I know that we're in times where it's scary to think about, but I know that the Lord has said, do not fear. And He's provided, Satan will work with fear, and I think the Lord speaks to us through urgency. And I know that when my wife and I moved into this home, and our previous home, we used the priesthood and we dedicated our home. And I would like to encourage you guys to do something similar. Go and read different temple dedications. Go and read and spend some time at your home and figure out what do you want to, how do you want to dedicate and consecrate your home. And it's been an amazing experience. And my wife and I, and we sat down in prayer, we fasted and prayed, and we consecrated our house to the Lord. And I prayed specifically for it to be protected against the calamities of these last days. And I know that that's something that has been a growing experience for us, and it can be for you guys too. And specifically, if you guys need help with the priesthood blessings, reach out to your ministers, reach out to me. I'd love to help out. I know the bishop would love to help out, so that's just what I wanted to leave you guys there. So I like to talk about food, water, and power. And those three things, I feel like it can start to get overwhelming. And I know that sometimes you focus on, I'm just going to focus on food right now. I'm just going to focus on water right now. But these three things together has allowed, they work really well together. And it allows you to, from start to finish, how do you make a meal for your family? And so, I wanted just to say a couple things. I'm going to start showing some different things and allow your hearts to open up and hear the Spirit, because you guys might get ideas in your head of things that you might want to prepare for. It may not even be related to these items. Just write them down, because those are things that the Lord is asking you to go get. And if you follow those promptings, you can follow the same path that the brother of Jared took. He did temporal things that led to spiritual things. He had a problem where he just needed light for his family, and so he went and figured out how to get light for his family, and he went to the Lord, and it turned into a magnificent spiritual experience. I know that we can follow that same pattern there. And then also, if you guys have any questions throughout, just feel free to ask them. We'll probably ask questions at the end too, but this presentation is going to work a little bit differently, where I'm just going to be showing things and talking about things, and if you guys have questions specific to that, it's going to flow a lot better. So I'm going to open with that. I did hand out a few of these already. I'm just going to pass out some more. Just pass it back, because there's a few new people. This essentially is we have a website for the ward, and if you scan the QR code or go to that website, it's going to go to a doc that I created that's going to list all these items, where you can find them online, the prices of them, and we're going to be working on adding to that. So it's just a good resource there. As you start to get, so we're going to start with food, and as you start to get through food storage, there's different ways that you can approach how you want to know how much you need for your family. So there's understanding how many calories you need per day for an adult. that works well for some people. You can also do servings. The problem with serving size is you might have two of the same items from different companies, and one might say a serving size is a cup, and one might say a serving size is a half a cup. So there's some discrepancy there. So I like to stick with calories. The way the church works, and I have a handout if you scan the QR code, and one of the links there talks about some different food calculations, and they work in pounds. And that works really well, understanding how many pounds an adult male might need or adult female might need for grains and for fats and proteins. So that works really well with pounds. And so I'm going to be going back and forth between calorie and pounds. And like I said, this can seem overwhelming, and I'm going to go from the goal and the standpoint of trying to get a year's worth of supply of food, water, and then the ability to use it throughout for a year. But it can get overwhelming, and if you can't do a year, just focus on getting a 1 month. If you get 1 month, I promise you that you have the tools and the mechanisms to go 2 months and 3 months. What made sense to me was trying to get 3 months of food that you and your family normally eat, and then you take the remaining 9 months of just basic grains, basic foods there, and that gets you to your year. And you have to. I'm speaking for myself, and I know my kids are very picky. I know that I'm trying to think of what do they normally eat, and they really only eat scrambled eggs and bread and milk, and that's all it was. So what I did was I ended up getting a big bucket of scrambled eggs. Lots of servings there, super light. I ended up getting a bucket of dry milk that you put water in, it turns into whole milk. And just different things like that has worked well for my family. I saved up for a couple months. I spent about $100. I bought a big bucket of milk, and it's going to last us a long time. And I know that it's going to be a lot easier than trying to force my girls to eat. There's some times that it's not always going to be as tasty, but I know that my girls are going to eat this. Yes, Liz?
Speaking of taste, how were those eggs?
I haven't opened them up and made them yet, but maybe I will, and I share them.
If you're really, really hungry, you're not going to care.
That's exactly true.
If you're
I read,
starved, then you'll just eat an egg.
Right. I have read reviews on the scrambled eggs, and when they reconstitute them, they say you can't tell the difference between the eggs and then the milk. And so, I'm sure, like you said, if you're really hungry, then everything's going to taste.
If you had the eggs at the breakfast at the Hampton Inn or the Holiday Inn,
yes,
those are the eggs.
Okay, that's got flavor.
Yeah.
Ketchup also.
So your free breakfast at a hotel, that's usually the.
That's good to know, yeah.
Also, what I noticed was there's different ways to go about food storage. There's changing your way of life in the sense of I'm gonna get extra cans from the store and I'm gonna put them in the pantry and I'm gonna rotate through them, and that works really well for some people. That doesn't work well for me and my family. I always let things expire, and it just got super frustrating. So this was more an event for me. I feel like the Lord had told me to get my family to a certain level of preparation, and that was my goal. And once I got there, I was going to put it in the back of my mind and move on with other things. That's why I focused on freeze-dried stuff, because I could get it. I could put it in the garage or in the basement, and I could forget about it. And I knew that it wasn't going to go bad. So this was an event for me, and that's something to think about. As far as expensive-wise, sometimes freeze-dried food can get more expensive, but there are times where it's less expensive. So go to the Lord. He'll help you to make the very first step. I bought a lot of these foods on the church website. So they have these strawberries, wheat, basic things. As I started getting into the wheat and grains, I knew that I could turn it into bread, but I didn't know how to. And so I knew that was a skill. So as I needed to learn how to make bread. And I'm grateful for my neighbor Jared, who was the bread guru, who taught me some skills how to make bread. And I've been able to make bread now for me and my family. Each week now, it's been an important skill, and so I wanted just to turn some time over to him to be able to talk about his experience with making bread and pertaining to immersion preparedness. Okay.
Thanks, Andy, for passing the mic. He's giving me way too much credit
Passing the bread.
on how to make bread because I definitely light instruction. I think YouTube probably helped it more than me, and YouTube taught me how to make bread. From that was, okay, how can I make bread from like whole wheat berries? They call like the whole wheat grain a berry, it's like the technical term. But if you have just like wheat, which I brought some here, you know, you buy it at the food store, everyone's like, I should get wheat, but like how do you turn this into bread? Or like what do you do with this? How do you eat this? So there are like, and by the way, once you buy this, it's pretty cheap. You can get a whole big bucket like this for 30 or 40 bucks, and that's 50 pounds. So, I mean, that'll last you a while. Andy probably knows exactly how long. No. It won't last you that long. Anyway, I've been baking for a year and I haven't gone through one yet, so I bake like once a week. But there's 3 things you can do with these wheat berries. The first is you can just put them in water and boil them, and it's 1 cup wheat berries for 3 cups water, and you gotta cook them for almost an hour. They say 30 minutes usually, but if you have a harder wheat, and there's different types of wheat, but 30 minutes to an hour, you gotta cook them, and it's basically like oatmeal. So that's the first way. That's probably the simplest way. That's your like level 1. I have wheat. How do I eat it? You just boil it. The next is you're gonna grind it, and you're gonna turn it into something else. Turn it into bread, and you're gonna make flour. And so I actually brought my grinder here. It's pretty cool. And Andy, do you want to fire up the solar
Yeah.
generator?
We'll talk about this in a minute, but this is showing him.
So this thing is loud. It's like an airplane taking off. But I don't know if you guys have ever seen a grinder. So there's the hand grinders, right? And they say that if you're gonna hand grind, it takes like an hour to grind enough bread to make a loaf of bread. But this thing right here, I don't know
He's
where.
ready to go.
He's ready to go?
Yep.
All right, there's not really a lot of space in that.
Okay, so you already got the solar
He's already got it charged up.
He's ready to go.
We're gonna plug in when you make sure it's off.
I
Plug
still
in the
think,
Wonder Mill.
I still think it's a good idea to have a hand grinder.
Yeah, I
just
think
in
so too.
case.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any electricity you've had cloudy days, and so, I mean, yeah, it'll be a pain, but I still think it's just something to have just back there,
Yeah.
food storage, just in case. Because sometimes, you can't
Yeah.
charge your solar.
And you can make like cracked wheat cereal with it, and you can just
Yeah.
grind them not as big. and-
Yeah, I agree
so
100%.
Yeah.
This is great, and I think you should have one of these too, but always, I think, have a hand one.
But I have a
Just
hand
in
one at
case.
home.
Yeah.
I've never used it, but I.
But when
And the
I,
kids love
They
it.
never-
They
yeah.
love to sit there and wind it.
when I was getting into making bread, I was like, I only want to get. I was like, should I get a hand grinder? So get a hand grinder, and then I started like doing it to make bread, and I was like, I can't do this on my normal life
Yeah.
because I'm like sweating trying to make this bread.
Oh, yeah, but for an
But the
electric
Wonder
one,
Mill
sure, it's fine.
is sweet. So we're gonna turn this wheat into flour. It's gonna be really loud, so everyone just brace yourself. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So this is enough wheat to make like a small loaf of bread, and we'll grind this in less than a minute, like maybe 30 seconds.
Jared,
That's it.
how much wheat do you have in there? Is it
I added a
cup?
cup and a half.
Cup and a half.
So that'll make like and this is a cup and a half of wheat. So that cup and a half of wheat translates into more flour. So it translates into a few cups of flour.
Very cool.
So there's your flour right there.
That's way better than
So can I read you a stat? I don't know why
Yeah.
I have this on my phone.
Please pull it up.
A 5-gallon bucket of wheat will give you 1 loaf of bread for 30 days. The
Oh.
math is 5 gallons equals 60 cups of wheat. 2 cups of wheat ground equals 3 cups of flour.
Uh-huh.
3 cups of flour makes 1 loaf of bread. So that is 1 loaf of bread per day for a month from 1 bucket of wheat.
Okay.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
that 1 loaf is about 1,500 calories.
Nice. Thanks for
Okay.
doing that.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Alright, well, screwed.
Alright, cool. So that's how you make flour. And then, once I do the flour,
How much are those?
this, I got this on Facebook Marketplace, used for like $150. I don't know how much it would be used.
What brand is it?
It's the Wonder Mill.
Oh, real
So I did a bunch of research. Wonder Mill's a good brand. I got it on Facebook Marketplace. I got it from a lady up in Sandy, and her husband's a truck driver. And I met him on the side of the freeway, and we made this exchange. So it's kind of fun.
I have a KitchenAid.
Just the grinder though.
Just
and
the
there's,
grinder.
I have an attachment for my KitchenAid that just grinds wheat. So there's lots of options.
Yeah.
We have a Nutrimil.
Yeah, those are good too.
Much louder than that.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Those are like twice as loud.
Nutrimil's
But
quiet.
it can ground.
Yeah,
Comparative.
but it is like a jet taking off.
Yeah.
I can't make bread when the kids are sleeping, obviously. The last thing I want to talk about is, all right, so you have bread, you need yeast to make bread if you're normally, but what if you like wanted to make a sourdough start and you're like not a sourdough expert? People think that to make a sourdough start, you have to have like someone else's sourdough start. That's not true. So this flour right here, if you were to mix it with equal parts flour and water and just set it on your counter, you would have a sourdough start in about a week.
Lead ferment.
Yeah, so there's natural yeasts and things in the whole wheat flour that will turn into a sourdough start. There's yeasts in the air, and yeah, I haven't done it from scratch, but my cousin in my old neighborhood has done it from scratch. It's pretty easy. You just let it sit on your table, counter. If you're getting, I'd probably do like 75 grams flour, 75 grams water. Let it sit. You're gonna see it like bubble. After it kind of raises a little bit and comes back down, you're gonna take most of it out and then do the same thing. And you do that a couple times, and you'll have a sourdough start. So if you're in an emergency preparedness situation and you have wheat, you can make your own sourdough start doing that. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Real quick, I just looked up the pricing for the Wonder Mill.
Yeah.
On Amazon, I looked at a couple other sites and they're right around $300. And then if you get the KitchenAid attachment, it's $149.95. Next week is Amazon Prime deals on the 8th and 9th, and all their tech stuff like appliances and whatever's, they're gonna have big discounts on.
Yeah.
So you may wanna, just a thought, check Amazon on the 8th and 9th
They
and
do
see.
have like a store that sells them, and they have like sales every now and then. You can get like a Bosch, you can get like the little Nutrimil stuff and all that.
Is it the Family Still Matters store?
No, it's over by like the, like off of, what's that road? I can't remember. I'll find it and I'll let you know. But it's here in St. George, and you can go get stuff. It might be Nutrimil, yeah. And it's kind of in the industrial area over.
4196 south, 950 east, which means absolutely nothing to me. Other than their numbers. And one ends in 0.
And
the
they
other
do
ends in
have
6.
sales, so if you watch, they do sales like every now and then, and you can get a sell, you can get it for sale, like on a discount.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yes.
Not to, you probably won't got those things you have to cover, but we've been doing our own bread also for the last year or so. We have our own sourdough start, and one of the things that really helped us make the bread more enjoyable is to have more than one type of grain.
Okay.
So you can get spelt, kamut, other types of things, and you can mix all of those and grind them in the same grinder.
Yeah.
And now you get a lot of diversity of flavor and taste,
Nice.
which makes your bread a lot better.
And add a little
No
of
ideas.
that powdered milk in this one too.
Yeah, I second that. They have like three different types of wheat that I kind of mix together in my normal loaf.
Nice.
Different varieties of wheat is what it is.
Yeah.
Use like durum wheat, something that's higher in protein, or?
There's like a red
Like a
wheat
red
and a
wheat.
white wheat,
Yeah.
and then the
Beans can also go into the grinder, but it can be dangerous if you have too much bean content in, let's say, chocolate chip cookies that are made primarily bean flour.
Yeah.
How do you know about? They can also serve as a prank, you know, if you feel so inclined.
What sounds amazing though is if we ever come to it, it sounds like our ward is gonna have some amazing bread. There's a lot of people that have dabble with this, so thanks for sharing that. I guess the last thing I wanted to say was, whether you buy the wheat already in the cans, or if you go to the store and just buy it in a big bag, you can get, I just bought these might be 7-gallon bags, buckets, but something that my wife Bailey taught me was, if you can fit it, just put the bag of wheat directly in there. And with it being sealed, it's gonna make it last an extra couple years. Also, I've heard a lot of horror stories of people who just have their food preparations stored away in their basement or garage, and they come to it a year later and it's ransacked by rats or mice. So if you have it in something food grade like this, or even like just a plastic tote, it's gonna protect it a lot better from rodents. So that's food. I wanted to talk a little bit about water. So the church recommends, the goal was 1 year of food, right? But they recommend 2 to 4 weeks of water. There's a big discrepancy there, and I kind of explained this a little bit last activity, but we've been trying to solve like what happens if you have a year's supply of food but you only have a month's supply of water. So there needs to be a way to capture and replenish your stockpile back. So we'll get to that in a minute. If you think about getting, let's just say, 1 month's supply of water per person in your family. So if you have 1 gallon of water per person per day, that ends up being about 48, let's just say 50 gallons of water to get to 1 month. And that can be realistic. There's different ways to store water. It can be as simple as empty juice jars. This is a 5-gallon. They were selling this at Lynn's, but this is just a 5-gallon thing of water. You can get 10 of these. You can start to get really creative in where you put these. That was probably my biggest hurdle, is trying to figure out, where do I put this in my house so that it's not a problem. Because the Lord may ask you to do things, and it's important to do it, but if it's becoming a hassle and you're having to step over your food storage and your water all the time, it just becomes, you become resentful almost. So you can get creative in where you put these so that they're out of sight, out of mind. You can even get to things like, there's people that have the 50-gallon jugs in their garage, and you can even get, it's actually not that expensive to get 275 gallons and find a place to put it. I think they're like $150 just for the empty container, and then you put water in it. So that's storage. If you end up getting a family of 3 or 4, if you have a couple hundred gallons of water, then you have a 1 month supply of water. And so you need to find a way to then capture the water. And for my family, I have 2 different methods. I learned these from my friends, one of them from my friend, but I ended up, us specifically in this area, we're by the river. So I actually went and got some water from the river that I'm going to filter for you guys. So we have access to water there from the river. And then also rainwater. And so there's different ways to capture rainwater. And then one specifically, the story of how he thought of this is pretty amazing, but just a tarp. And whether you have a big yard, I don't have a big yard at all, but I have a way to hang this up. So if you lay this tarp out, it's 10 by 20. And on that brochure, there's a water link that shows how much gallons of water you can capture over just a laid out tarp. You end up, let's just say you lay this all the way out, and you just perforate the edges with like some rocks so that the water can just stay on the tarp. With that amount of surface area, 1/2 of an inch of rain, you're going to be able to collect 200 plus gallons of water in a single rainfall. Especially here in St. George, it doesn't rain very often, but when it rains, it pours down. And so there's the ability to capture water. So then your next problem that you need to solve is having the storage capacity to save all the water that you capture. One method, I don't have it here, but you can go to Walmart and you can just get empty garbage cans for like $20, 30-gallon garbage cans. You can stack them up in your garage, so you can end up getting 5 to 10 stacked in your garage. They don't take up any space, but now you have the capacity to collect 300 or 400 gallons of water when it does rain. And so that solves one problem. If I don't know how long it was between rains down here, but there are some times where it might be 3 months between rainfall. And so shoot for having 1 gallon of water, or sorry, 1 month of water supply, but really we need to try to solve the gap of what happens if it doesn't rain for 3 months. And so I figured if you have 1 month, you can use the river to get water, and then when it rains, you can capture the water there. Those are problems that we solve for my family to be able to get your water supply up to the year. So now you have a year's supply of food and a year's supply of water, or the ability to get it. There are, one thing I didn't mention, if you are going to store water, as you start reading online, it's a rabbit hole, and people will say you got to do this and you got to do that. And really, water will last as long as long as you, as long as it's not moldy, or as long as it's not going to be harmful to you, then you can still drink it. But a way that you can make it last longer is, so this is pool shock. You can also do like basically a tiny bit of bleach, but there's a calculation that I can make it for you, but you just do like a teaspoon of the pool shock inside of a gallon of water, you swish it around, and then you get a half a cup of that, and a half a cup of that poured into like a 5-gallon thing of water. Now this is going to be able to last a long time, 2 to 3 years, to be able to, without having any mold in it, as long as it's not being hit by sun. And so on that handout there, I think that that calculation's on the document. If not, then ask me. I'm happy to make a solution for you that you can have, and you can just keep it and use it whenever you store water. So now that you've captured water, we want to talk about filtering the water. So there are lots of different ways to filter the water. I have a couple different ways. This one specifically it's a beast. It's amazing. It's probably a little more than what we need. We got this when my wife and I moved into an RV, and we lived on the road for a couple years. And what sold me was, there was a story of a family that went to a state, and they lived there for a couple weeks, and they left. And after they left, they read on the news that while they were there was a boil order the entire time, and they had no idea. And they knew that they were fine though, because they were running all their water through this. And this will go through bacteria and something else, and metals and viruses. So they knew that they were safe because they were filtering their water before it went into their RV. When I heard that story, that sold me on it. But a less expensive option that is really good too are these little Sawyer squeezes. I don't know how it's possible, but they say that these can filter up to about 100,000 gallons of water. And they're small, you can put it in backpacks. I wish I had it set up. What I'm gonna do is pour this into the pan, because we're actually gonna cook a little bit of food. Hopefully this works. So, what you end up doing, if I had a way to hang this, then I would. So you capture the water, and then you hang it, and then, wish I had another hand. There we go.
It's just somebody to hold
Someone
it
to
up.
stand
Hold
up.
that.
Here.
Let's see if, there you go. So it's coming through, and then it's just pouring out. So now, this water is technically good enough to drink. We will be boiling it too, but I've taken these Sawyer squeezes and I just drink it straight out of the river.
So this is right from the river?
This is from the river, yeah.
And the filter's right there.
It's filtering out, so this water is good enough to drink. If anybody wants to try it, but I'm gonna be,
You will.
I don't know, how much, I wanna get 2 cups. Tell me how much you think 2 cups is.
You're close to 2 cups.
Okay, let's just do that.
You're close.
So,
And I have a bunch of those, and they work fantastic.
they're awesome. This is a regular size. They even make a mini size that we put in all of our girls' backpacks. And so they're sweet. I'll just take that.
Those are reusable for how long?
They say up to about 100,000 gallons of water, so a long time.
Have you seen the straw thing where people suck through the straw?
Yeah.
Is that any good?
Those are just as good too, yeah. I think the Sawyer Squeeze can say, it can filter more.
The
This is
smaller,
basically,
the smaller version of that one that he's talking about is exactly like the Life Straw. So the smaller version is a straw form. So the one that we put in our kids' backpacks is a straw.
Okay.
Very similar, yeah. So they just have different sizes
Yeah.
and they're very comparable to like the Life Straw.
if you ever need to, you can you basically open this up, you fill it with water, you put this on top, and now you can just drink it straight from the bag like that. So it works pretty awesome.
Okay.
This is a Life Straw. This is more of a family one. So you almost like find a way to hang this up. You pour water in here. I don't know how many gallons this does. This is gonna do a lot more. This is gonna do a lot. So there's some options there to be able to filter the water.
I don't wanna get too morbid, but, what about radioactive particles in case there's a war or something? Do you know if it gets rid of those?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll find out. Yeah.
Because usually it's stuff.
Yeah, they talked about, it talks about like water being, even water being tampered with in rivers or sources, so.
Yeah, because people will get goiters, it affects your thyroid gland, and so.
Yeah, I'll definitely find out.
Okay, I can look it up too.
I know that they said that with these filters, you can actually drink out of the river or water if you've had a flood, if you have bodies floating down the water.
Oh.
That's a pleasant thought.
The life,
Golly, you taught me in morbidity. Good job. Sorry.
yes, if
What about like people who have a pool?
yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
can you, if it has like the chemicals in it, would that work to purify the water with pool water?
So we had that question last time, and Mindy found out. So I do think this will help. I mean, what it says is, if you do it in small batches, so if you just take a gallon of pool water and you let it sit out in the sun, it's going to at least get some of the chemicals and the bacteria and kill it there. If you boil it, that's going to do a similar thing. So what you could do is you could filter it first, you can then boil it. I would definitely drink it after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So my understanding is that they also talk about having an equal part of drinking and then also just sanitary water to use for cleaning,
Yep.
et cetera, where that can be your water that's used for dishes.
Absolutely.
And body, whatever else it might be.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to do is just throw water away, because you could always use water for washing or even for plants. Like,
Yeah.
it's the very last thing, like, there's always things you can do with water. So, and there's other things, like there's pool water. If there's ever like an earthquake or something that's really a big earthquake, and as soon as you're safe and you know that there's no gas leak, go and see if there's water. Because if there is water, go and fill up your bathtubs. You can get 50 or 60 gallons that way. There's going to be 50 gallons in your water heater. So there's a lot of different ways to then store water that way, and then you can have the ability to filter it after that. So, yes.
One more question. Does anybody have a 250-gallon water tank? Just out of curiosity. Here? So we have one in Salt Lake, but we just keep it in the basement. Do you put it like on a platform? Do you put it in the garage?
You should never put it on concrete.
Yeah, well, but where do you put it?
Well, you need
On a
to
pallet?
elevate it on pallets of wood or something.
In the garage?
I've seen them where they're in like a metal frame, so they're technically on metal. In that point, you can put them on the ground as long as.
Okay, but that much heat, you haven't had any issues with the water?
Oh.
Okay.
You're still alive?
They make covers for
Still
them.
alive.
They make covers for them that fit right over it. That way, it protects it from the sun. And so that's what I'm looking into as well.
Can it not sit on concrete? Is that against the rules?
So what I've seen is when it's put on concrete, there's chemicals in the concrete that will actually come up through, go through the plastic.
Yeah.
Really?
So you can do something as simple as just getting cardboard and just laying like a little bit of cardboard out, and it just sits on top of the cardboard.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
But most of them come in like a metal frame.
It needs a very.
Like the 200, I think it's 275 gallons, is that right?
Yeah, I've seen 275, I've seen 250.
Mine does not. It's a 250. It's just a solid
Oh, okay.
plastic, and we just built a wooden platform for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's just for water, not for like the food buckets, right?
Yeah, just water.
But they're nice because they have a spigot that's at the 5-gallon bucket size, so you just put it underneath and it's perfect size to just fill up the 5-gallon bucket.
That's awesome. Cool.
If you go up to Staley Farm here, there's a guy, I don't know who it is, but they, on the corner, on the southwest corner, they have the metal frame water containers that
I've seen
somebody's
those.
trying to sell. And I've seen them over in Tonaway.
Yeah,
Somebody in town is selling them right now, so.
nice.
So if you have one of these big water tubs in your garage, do you have like a rotation that you dump the water like every year or every 2
Yeah,
years?
that's where I said, when you get online, people have their own preferences. People will say rotate it every 6 months, every year. It starts to get hard when you start doing it. I mean, that's a lot of water to go through, like to rotate. If you treat it right, and if you have it set in a place and it's dark and cool, I don't see why you need to rotate it as often as people say online.
I do
If you
mine
have
every
the
5
time-
years.
5 years?
And
5 years,
I put
yeah.
like a liquid oxygen in it, and I went down the rabbit hole. but-
Nice. No, it's easy to do.
So yours is in a
You know-
basement in Salt Lake, is a
Yeah.
garage in St. George gonna be considered cool?
No.
Right, so,
So-
but nobody has basements.
No,
But it
that's
is
the problem.
covered
That's why I
from the
wanna know.
sun, from the light,
You
also
do the
paint
best you
outside
can.
of those too.
and you can get little tablets to put in it, preserves the water.
Even if you have it outside in your backyard, you get a covering for like $20 on Amazon, covers it. Just check it every few months, but that's gonna prevent algae from growing, and I mean, I think it's fine. Plus, depends on after you take it from there. So if you get rainwater or capture water and put it in there, you're still gonna filter it after or boil it after. So it depends on. So there's ways to make it work. All right. And then, so we talked about food and then water. And then the last thing, to be able to cook food or boil water to be able to make food for your family. So just really quickly wanted to talk about, there's different kinds of fuels. So you have traditional fuels like gasoline, you have propane or butane, and those are gonna be your traditional fuels. It starts to get dangerous and even illegal as you start to store too much gasoline. So me and my family, we have about 15 gallons of gasoline just in our garage. You can buy like fuel stabilizer from Ace Hardware to put in one of these. That will make gasoline last for 2 years. I don't know how long it lasts without that.
Even if there's ethanol in it?
They say getting ethanol free is better.
Okay.
I'd probably have ethanol in this.
Cause I heard that without it, it only lasts like a few weeks, like.
So with it is better?
No, like if it has ethanol in it and it's in your garage, like it doesn't last very long at all.
Right, okay, I didn't know that, but if you go to Ace Hardware and you get that fuel stabilizer, it says that it will make your fuel last for 2 years.
Cool.
If you're using it on things like generators that have smaller carburetors, you wanna get ethanol free. Because that will, the ethanol in it will create like a varnish in your carburetor, it'll plug it up pretty bad.
Ignorant question, where do you buy ethanol-free gasoline?
Maverick down over by Smith's, Dinosaur Crossings.
Okay,
It's the blue one.
okay,
It's the blue-
gotcha.
And I concur.
Should we put that in my
I've been the
car,
guy
too?
that's clogged up my generator.
Yeah, yeah, it
It's
just,
overdue.
it happens.
It happens all, yeah.
They're saying
It's good,
regular
like you said, for
gasoline
small
has a
equipment,
shelf
lawnmowers
life
that
of
don't get
3
used all the time, but things like that.
months, 3 to 6,
Cars
but
that you're
more
like
around 3.
Okay.
It was just regular gas,
Okay, nice.
so.
Cool. I feel like I've kept it in my garage for longer and put it in my lawnmower, but maybe I'm ruining my lawnmower. I'm not realizing it. I'm gonna talk a little bit about, I wanna get this boiling first though, because it might take a minute. So I'm just gonna get this started and continue to talk about it. There are, okay.
Is that what
It-
it sounds like with the generator running?
Yeah, it's working, it's silent. And that's what I like about it. There are pros and cons to a solar generator compared to a gas generator. I had a gas generator when I was in an RV, and they're great because they work through the night, they work through storms. I became incredibly frustrated because I had to go and fill up with gasoline at the worst times in the middle of the night to be able to keep it going. So there's some pros and cons there. one of the pros of gas generators is you're gonna be able to get a lot more powerful one for cheaper. But then you need to figure out a way to store fuel for it or else it doesn't work. Fuel and oil, or else it's not gonna work. Yeah.
Maybe this hasn't been addressed. Are there dual ones that is gas and solar? Or, like-
I don't know.
Sounds like it would be the best of
My
all
guess is
you
probably
Spy too.
a hybrid style.
I know they make them where they're gas, propane, and natural gas, but I don't know if they do, because you're looking at two completely different methods of creating energy.
Okay.
Like the gas ones are, you have like a piston engine, but these solar ones, you're charging a battery. So they're
So it's just different.
different,
Okay.
yeah.
So with all the sun that we get here, wouldn't a solar one be a really good choice?
So that's a big reason why I went with it. I was thinking more long-term, so if we were out of power for an extended period of time, I would want a solar. I've been thinking, if you're in a storm and the clouds are out, you're gonna wanna have alternative ways to cook food and boil water, but I feel like being in a place like this, it's the best long-term solution. And this, I do have different options. This one's about 2,000 watts, and then this battery here adds another 2,000 watts. So there's 4,000 watts there. When Jared was doing his, grinding his wheat, that peaked at about 1,300 watts. So there's things there's watts, there's watt hours, and to be honest, I'm still learning the details. It starts to get pretty, it can become overwhelming, but like Mindy said, I found this on a Prime Day deal, and I ended up getting these about half off. They're definitely an investment, but it's been the best investment I've done for my family, because it does so many things. You don't necessarily have to think of it as being like of a me thing. Like this might be something that you work together with a neighbor or a friend that you go together with. I hope that this is working. Is it hot? It's hot. So it is hot. So what this is this is a hot plate, and the idea here is I'm supposed to put. I'm actually not supposed to put boiling water in this. So 1 cup. Let that sit for a little bit. Let it keep on boiling. There's also other ways, like I bought this, so I wanted to, like, if my solar generator, if I'm waiting for the sun, I still want to be able to cook food. There's wood burning. There's different options there. Another good method, where's it at, is right here. So this is just a basic alcohol stove, really small. It allows you to boil water and even cook food in a pot. And the fuel for it is just right here. Denatured alcohol. I don't necessarily know what makes it denatured, but it's safe to store, and it's really not expensive to get a month's supply of this for your family. Thank you. So I have 4 or 5 of these in my garage, and you just pour a little bit into here, and it basically just keeps a flame, and you can boil water that way. So having 3 or 4 ways to cook food or boil water, and hopefully I don't start a fire. But the reason why I like this too is because it provides a lot of options. I can put rechargeable batteries in to be able to recharge for the flashlight. Being hot, I can plug in a fan. You can do a lot of things at the same time. I even bought one of those window AC, it's probably good enough. Window AC units. A lot of people have like a heater to heat their house, but here in St. George, what if I want to cool my house? And so you think like, well, maybe I'll cool a room, a specific room. So I have just a portable AC unit, just like just tucked away, that I can plug into this, and I can keep a room cool so that if something goes out in the summer, my family isn't miserable in the heat. So there's some options there. You can buy solar panels for it. You can actually daisy chain solar panels to it so that you can do multiple. And what's amazing is you can be using power and bringing in power at the same time. And yeah, it's been a good experience. I'm trying to think of. That's that's basically what I wanted to show.
I
Yes,
was
sir.
gonna add one more thing for cooking food. I forgot to mention it. You can bake bread in a Dutch oven, like over a fire.
Oh, yeah.
I tried it last night, failed miserably. I didn't wait for the Dutch oven to get hot enough and the bread just flattened out. I ended up eating like a nice pancake brick bread. But I will get better. I'll improve. I'll practice. But you can cook bread in a Dutch oven over a fire.
That I appreciate, Jared, because we have the week solved and the ability to power it, but how do we actually cook the bread? So that's the next step we're trying to solve. I think that Alma, right?
Yep.
I think you measured this perfectly.
Yep. Many years of cooking.
Uh,
Question for how long?
Sorry, guys.
How long does it take with that expandable panel to, roughly go from 0 to full?
Depends on how much you're bringing in. This is 120 watts panel, and so if I put 3 of them together, then I'm technically bringing in about 300, but you never quite get that. So let's say you get about 250 watts going in. It will probably charge this fully in a few hours. The reason why I got both of them was the idea that I can keep this one charged, and then I can take it apart, and I can use this at night, and then this is always the one that's bringing. I'm always charging this one, and this one's charging this one. You can stack a couple of these together. I got an amazing deal on Prime Day. They go, and actually when I bought these a year ago, they have ones that are better and more powerful and cheaper now. And that's just how it's going to continue to get. I know that it's an investment. I know that it's not always an option for everyone. So on that sheet there, I listed out different sizes of solar generators, but then also different gas generators that you can have. Really just trying to find a way to get, I'd like to say I'm gonna find 2 different ways that I can cook food and boil water for my food storage for my family. And so whether that's a solar generator or whether it's just a wood burning if you have a campfire, that just finding 2 different ways to do it. Yes, Matt?
I know when I think it was President Benson, he said food, water, clothing, and fuel. So I know they didn't have solar or anything, but I've always thought about this when Heather and Tom. When we store briquettes, you can even store, like if you've got a pellet stove, you can store pellets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can store just about any type of fuel to cook with in order to do a lot of stuff. It doesn't have to be electricity based. So just a thought.
Thank you. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to show. If you have any more questions, let me know. And I'm always here to answer questions. Jared's a bread guru. If you want to ask him questions about bread, Garen too. So I just want to leave with the thing about as I started to do this, sometimes you start to feel a little lonely, sometimes it starts to get overwhelming. But it's amazing when you can find a community, you can find neighbors, people to really go into this with you. I mean, the Lord wants us, there's something about temple preparation is getting us ready for the Savior's return. And it's not about being the last man standing or about hunkering down or hoarding it. It's really about what can I do, what can I provide to the community and to our neighbors. And so I just encourage you guys to go to the Lord, pray about it, start to figure out what can I do for my family, and then as you start to do that, say who can I reach out to? If you end up getting to a hurdle or you run into a dead end that you just don't know how to solve, sometimes that's with money. You can be like, hey, it's just too expensive. I really can't set aside any money towards this. Like, ask the Lord, because He'll provide other ways. I've had experiences where I literally had somebody come and give me food storage because it was only a few years old for them, and they were saying, hey, do you want this? And I was like, yes, and it was a direct answer to prayers, and it literally saved me $1,000 at food storage. So the Lord will provide miracles in your life as you start to do that. And so I just wanted to say that and leave these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.